That's right, from general elections to midterm elections. It's a global village, so as we have elections in Nigeria, we have elections in other countries. It's democracy, right? That's like the bedrock of democracy, they say. So let's talk about the U.S. midterm elections. For some people, it might be a new term. You're wondering, I know about midterm holidays, right, in school, but not midterm elections. So let's have this conversation. We're joined on the program this morning by Mr. Joseph Kruzich, who is a Public Affairs Officer, U.S. Consulate General, Lagos. Joins us right here in our Lagos studios. Good to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We see the results are trickling in already. We'll get to the results part. But for a lot of people who are thinking, wait a minute, midterm elections, we here in Nigeria, a lot of other countries, they have the 4-year cycle elections.
That's right.
For the U.S., it has a little bit of alteration with its midterm elections. So help us understand, what is the value of a midterm elections in I mean, your president has a 4-year tenure. You have a 4-year cycle. Even I think the Senate has a 6-year staggered cycle. So what is the value of this midterm election?
Well, the value, as often seen, is that it's a barometer on the popularity of the current sitting president and the majority party that controls the White House. In this case, right now, it's the Democrats. They control both the White House and the Senate and the House of Representatives. And every two years, the House of Representatives, all the seats are up for contestation in the election, and then a third of the Senate seats are contested as well. And there was expectations going into this election that President Biden's party, the Democrats, might lose their majority in either the Senate or the House of Representatives. There was projections in some quarters of possibly what they called a red wave, a Republican surge of support. That didn't seem to materialize last night. The American people made it quite clear that they wanted to continue on with President Biden's administration and the Democrats. It looks like the Democrats may not hold on to their majority in the House of Representatives. That's still to be decided, but they only had a very small majority there anyway. And historically, the party in power, the Democrats, usually lose 20 to 30 seats in the House of Representatives in a midterm election. But what was surprising was many projected that the Republicans might take back the Senate majority, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. It looks like the Democrats will either gain a seat or hold on to the 50-50 split, which they had before. And with that, because of that 50-50 split, the White House has the deciding vote, so essentially they had a working majority in the Senate.
That's with the vice president.
That's right, the vice president.
It's interesting, you know, but just to be clear again, following up on Cody's question to you, how many election cycles, you know, the U.S. because, you know, people are looking for case 2024, and that's what many people, you know, seem to be thinking about, 2024. What happens then? How many governorship elections happens when, and all those things. But perhaps some clarity for some people to understand.
Well, it's often the case that the midterms sort of clarify and also predict what will happen in the next election cycle, which will be a presidential cycle. If the president in power loses a strong majority at that time, then it's possible he might not run for re-election again, and so that could happen. Or it's also possible that leaders, and this often happens, and it may happen even in this election too, that leaders from the opposition emerge, especially at the governor's level, where they become perhaps the presidential candidates for the opposition party. And in this case, I would point to one particular state and governor. There's a governor in Florida. His name is DeSantis. He's a Republican. He did very, very well in his re-election for governor last night in Florida. I think he won by 14, 15 points. There's a lot of speculation in Washington and the rest of the U.S. that he may run.
Sorry about that. Well, you were saying something about, you know, but I'm just curious. Is that what happened? This midterm election, was it a determinant for the election, you know, during that happened to President Trump?
Well, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, the analysts will come up with.
I mean, the midterm elections before he was voted out.
Oh, the midterm elections. Yeah, well, that was a good example of what I was talking about before. It's often a barometer on the popularity of the president. In that case, in the midterms in 2018, when President Trump was in power, his party lost a sizable majority in the House of Representatives. I think they lost 40 seats in that. They also lost Senate seats as well. So that was seen as a sort of rebuke of President Trump in his first 2 years, and also led to his eventual impeachment and then to his eventual defeat in 2020.
That sounds like there's some kind of umbilical cord connecting the president's office with that of legislators. Because it's not just losing seats.
Yeah.
It's also political officers losing their jobs.
Well, remember, in the U.S. constitutional system, we have three branches of government. We have the president, we have the executive branch, we have the legislative branch, which is the Congress. Those are the elections that we're watching overnight. And then we have, the Supreme Court and the judicial branch. And so it's natural, especially that the executive branch and the judicial branch have interaction. It's often the case, because of our constitutional structure, that the congressional branch sets the legislative agenda for the passing of legislation and reforms and stuff like that. But step back here, and the real question, I think, for your viewers is, what are the implications of these elections?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get
for
to
the
that.
U.S. Nigeria relationship.
We'll definitely get to that.
And I think
we're building up to it. Just wanted to understand, how it works, and if there's a comparison with us.
Maybe we should flow into that, really, because there are key issues at stake. I know people have different reasons for voting a particular candidate.
Sure.
I mean, you can't take that away. People seek their interests first, but then there's personal interest, there's national interest. And I'll reel out some of the major issues, maybe nationally and globally, and maybe see how this is playing out. There's the economy. And I think for a lot of people, that's top on the list.
Yes.
Economy. And I imagine that a lot of people feel that they might get, correct me if I'm wrong, people are different now. They think they might get this better with Republicans, more Republicans, maybe.
Yes.
So for them, they thought, let me swing and just get more Republicans, and maybe they can handle economy. There talks about rights, this Black Lives Matter and all of that. Also, people have reasons, maybe tilt towards the Democrats, because they have a feeling that, well, they will stand up for you in all of that. So America has your interests at heart first, but then there's a global context.
That's right.
This election, it looks like the economy of America is top on the list, but there's also that global economic crunch. There's a war in Ukraine and all of that. So how will this election help America align with that global need for some sort of economic stability?
Well, I think, first of all, to answer your question directly, I think this strengthens the President Biden, his administration, in dealing and conducting foreign affairs, because they didn't have, as expected, the Republicans take back in a convincing manner either house of Congress. I mean, it looks like the Republicans may gain a majority in the House of Representatives, be a small majority, but it doesn't look like the Republicans are going to take the Senate.
Even I'm seeing results, and it looked tied now anyway.
Exactly. I just think that it's a good performance, unexpectedly good performance for the president and his party.
So people have said this is clearly a referendum on him. We've seen former President Obama come on the campaign trail, perhaps to boost, because it's very loved.
That's
really.
right.
We've seen Hillary Clinton as well jump on the parade trail to ensure that at least they support. But seeing what is playing out, it's still a bit, maybe few results in will know what the finality is. So in terms of, I don't know whether to call it America first now, or at least America for itself first before for the world, what will this do to relations with Nigeria? I mean, the elephant in the room, first of all, because I imagine that with the recent issues, the travel advisories we have seen, which has caused some sort of uproar, I don't know whether to say bad blood, but I imagine that this is an avenue to work together. Do you think that this will help that relationship, that tie between America and Nigeria?
Yes, I do. I mean, I think my message was going to be, even before the results, were that they will not impact the conduct of our foreign policy, especially our continued engagement with Nigeria. We regard Nigeria as a very important partner on the continent, one of the most important actors on the continent, the largest economy, and a booming economy in many sectors, areas where we really want to be a partner with, especially in the creative industries, in film and music and technology. We were just at the African International Film Festival this week, and we had a huge presence of Hollywood and a lot of American companies, Netflix, Amazon, Paramount Studios, and a whole bunch of others there for the screening of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. It was a great event. And that's where I think Nigeria's future is, and that's where America's future is too, in the tech area and in the creative industries. And I think there, the United States will be, we hope, Nigeria's partner of choice, and Nigeria will be our partner of choice on the African continent and indeed globally as well. So I think there's a lot of positive results that will flow out of this this election for the U.S. Nigeria relationship. Also, let's remember that in December, the president is hosting the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit, December 13th to the 15th, and that is going to be a chance for President Biden to meet with dozens of leaders from the African continent. I think 43, 44 leaders, including President Buhari, will be going to Washington to discuss U.S.-Africa relations.
Right. If I could just put this in, because immigration also is a key issue for people. There are those who think, well, I think we have enough to deal with. Let's just try to reduce the influx. Something, well, it's a free world. You can allow people coming. Do you think this will change? Because I know lots of Nigerians who've tried to, you know, maybe go for studying and all of that, and they've hit a brick wall time and again. So do you think this midterms, I mean, we're going to see how it would swing, but do you think it will improve that immigration, do I say, the move, the status, the current issues that have been a major talking point? Do you think it will improve it, or maybe just will remain with status quo?
Well, it's hard to say at this point what the impact of that's going to be. You mentioned the economy as being a primary motivator for the voters yesterday in the midterm elections in the United States. Other issues that were prominent in that were the abortion debate and the right of women to the Roe v. Wade decision. That was a fairly important issue at stake as well. Immigration and crime were also up there on the list of voters' concerns as well. I can't say whether this will have any impact on immigration reform. That's been discussed for quite a long time in the U.S., but really nothing's materialized over the past decade on that from what I've seen. So I think it's too hard to predict at the moment. But I do think, I mean, when you talk about students and studying in the United States, I mean, we're going to have new figures out, I believe, next week on the number of foreign students studying in the United States. Nigeria will maintain its position as the 10th largest sending country to the United States. I think we're going to see probably around 15,000 Nigerian students go to the U.S. Every year, and we want to make that number double, triple, and quadruple over the next 3-4 years, and I think we can. Now, I mean, you sort of elliptically referred to the issue of visas and the wait time, and we're working on that. I mean, we don't find the wait time, which is way too long, acceptable. There are some good explanations for that because of the backlog from what was created under COVID. But we are working to reduce that time, and I think we'll have some good news out to report on that in the coming days and weeks.
Okay, we have to wrap up now. There's so much to discuss. I was going to ask you, really, if you think this result will tip a possible Trump comeback, because he's meant to make an announcement, but perhaps we'll leave this for another time.
Okay.
But we'd like to thank you so much. Mr. Joseph Kruzich is Public Affairs Officer, U.S. Consulate General, Lagos. We'll be having you again, because clearly we've not exhausted the issue. So definitely we'll look forward to having you again.
Well, thank you for letting me be on the show, and I look forward to coming back.
Most certainly.